Assalamu alaikum. Hello, I'm Khalil Alika.
And I'm Zahir Parker, and welcome to AccidentalMuslims.com.
So, AccidentalMuslims.com is a movement, a platform where we showcase present and future leaders to help us live with purpose.
And we believe that everybody has a story to tell. This podcast hopes to add value. So, welcome and enjoy.
Hi, I'm Marwaan Sasman, and this is AccidentalMuslims.com.
Welcome, Marwaan Sasman. It's been quite some time to get hold of you, and so finally we get the chance to meet you. And Zahir, my co-host.
Yes, Khalil, it's good to be back. We've been a bit of a break and launching the second part of our first season with a very interesting guest. And I'm looking to learn something from you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So Marwaan, maybe introduce yourself. Who is Marwaan Sasman? What do you do?
Okay, I'm Marwaan Sasman. I'm a creative director at a creative agency called Pigeon Pie Design Lab. And we're a full-service creative agency. So we work with clients, helping them with their marketing, their brand strategy, their design, their online presence, and basically how they communicate as a brand. A lot of it comes down to what kind of stories can we help people tell? How can we help brands better tell their stories and better reach the audiences they want to reach? And that's what I do professionally. My personal interest in that is how do we work with companies who are making some kind of impact in the world, and how do we assist them? With my personal skill set, my team's skill set, the way we assist them is through creative and through design. And I feel like the kind of industries that we work within is where we want to work, which is change making, or companies that challenge the status quo or champion innovation in some way. Those are the kind of brands that we build and the kind of organizations we work with.
So Marwaan, do you actually choose your client, or do you just accept anybody that knocks on the door?
We choose what clients we work with, and we do that through the way we communicate the kind of work that we do, and it attracts a certain kind of client. So people might approach us and they might turn into projects that doesn't necessarily exactly fit that innovator profile. And that's okay. I mean, it's a business. But the kind of people that we approach, or the kind of people that are attracted to us, fits our profile.
And so you do marketing. Did you know that you're going to do marketing? If you go back to school, high school?
Not really. I had a bit of a double skill set through high school and university. I was really good at maths and science kind of subjects and biology and things like that. But I was also really good at the arts and design. So it was very rare for someone to kind of have interests on both sides. And I felt like I wanted to do something that combined both. I didn't want to go into a field where it was very academic. And I didn't want to go into a field that was too artistic. So not something like becoming an artist where you create art for art's sake, but where you create something for some kind of objective or some kind of goal or some kind of measurable result. And for me, marketing kind of solves that. You get to use your creativity and you get to use your kind of analytical mind or business mind, because you're thinking about business problems and solving those business problems. So that's what led into marketing. I didn't think I'd be in marketing because I didn't really know much when I was younger. But I did know I wanted to use my creative skills and analytical skills at the same time.
What was interesting, what you said is that you didn't want to do art for art's sake, but you saw marketing as working towards a goal and working towards a measurable result. But when you attain that result, that's kind of artistic in its own self.
Yeah, you could say so.
It's just something I'm picking up as you were saying. And then my next question is Pigeon Pie. It's a lovely name, eh? Any history behind it? How did it come up with it? When I read it the first time, I must say, I was like, okay, I want to meet this guy.
So you know about the way we choose our clients. We work with people who are building things that are changing the world in some way, or adding an impact on the world in some way. Back in the early days when we started, a lot of it was startups. A lot of it was young companies who were starting things. And the way the kind of creative agency came together was, how do we create a service for these kind of organizations that we felt weren't fully serviced by your ad agencies or design boutiques? No one understands what a innovator or how an innovator sees the world. And we felt like there's an opportunity there for an agency that does understand how an innovator sees the world. So anyway, so the story behind Pigeon Pie comes from a story my mom used to tell me. So my parents grew up in District 6. My grandparents had a house in District 6. And in small communities like that, everybody shares with each other. If there's someone down the road that's having a wedding, but they can't afford tables and chairs, everyone in the street brings together their tables and chairs. The neighbors were close. Everybody knew everybody down the street. If someone had a business on the corner and they were making beans or something, everyone in the street would know about that business and they would support them. And it was that kind of culture of sharing which I found fascinating or really interesting. And the kind of culture I imagined having within a company that I would build. And I remember my mom telling me a story about my granddad who used to make pigeon pie. So they used to eat pigeon pie. And I would imagine them cutting a few slices of the pie and sharing it with the neighbors. Because it's very common, even in Muslim communities right now, if it's small enough, when you make food, you always share it with the people next door, even if they already have food. And it's that kind of culture that I wanted to build within the company. And the name is kind of a reminder of what that's about. How do we share other people's stories? How do we share amongst ourselves? How do we share the skill sets we have with the rest of the world? How do we share amongst entrepreneurs or innovators or companies that we work with? So Pigeon Pie kind of encompasses that philosophy or that value.
That's fascinating because it actually ties into what we are trying to do here at AccidentalMuslims.com. We want to share the stories, actually, to hear your stories, to hear everybody's stories. And if our listeners are out there, pick up maybe one point. I mean, I'm listening, I'm hearing the story of your grandfather making pigeon pie and sharing it. And my mind is already starting to work. So I'm sure the listeners will pick up on something that our guests have. And that's how we want to build this network out of AccidentalMuslims.com. So it's a fascinating imagery you're giving there with the pie and the District 6 community, as we all know. I mean, in Cape Town especially, it was a close knit community. So that's fascinating. It really, it has some history behind it, and I like history. It adds a bit of color to any occasion. So thanks for sharing that. That is
I'll never forget Pigeon Pie. Well, how many services do you offer? And I know you rattled off a couple of services. Now, do you think it's better to rather focus on one or two, or rather have broad, base of services?
So we break our services into 3 categories. That's brand development, where we can help organizations build their brands. Brand management, where we help them manage the brands, where a brand already exists, but they need to maintain it and keep it growing. Then brand growth, which is more like an intervention on a brand that's maybe slowing down, or it needs some kind of kick in the butt, or it needs to move really fast in a certain market or something like that. And that's how we break our services up. But within those, there's various other microservices that will reach each of those goals. And the reason why we have so many microservices, like graphic design, website development, website design, social media management, writing, photography, print design, content creation, all these various different things, is that our philosophy is a little bit different to a design boutique or a normal creative shop. We feel like the creative is the tool to achieve the objective. So let's say your objective is to reach a particular market. A normal design, let's say you approach a design boutique that specializes in print design. They're going to tell you that, what you should do? You should do a print campaign. But that particular market might not even be reading any print. They might all be on Twitter or something. Or they might approach a web development company, and the web development company says, you know what you need? You need a website. That's going to reach your market. Everybody loves websites. But this market might be a township market that never checks websites, and they spend more time on Facebook pages than they do on websites. So maybe it's actually a Facebook page that they need. So the idea behind having a fluid selection of creative services is that you can solve the client's need no matter what the objective is. Because you only discover that once you approach the problem and once you actually work with the client to investigate the problem. Because they might say, you know what, we've been pitching to all these businesses, but we're getting no sales. And they think it's their website, or they think it's their pamphlet, or they think it's their writing, or they think it's their video, or they think it's their online presence. And all of those things might be amazing, but it could be the salesperson that dresses like a bum, or has bad breath, or so you need to investigate the problem to really figure out where's the opportunity to make a difference in the brand.
Okay, so I understand. So you technology or tool agnostic, meaning that you don't care about technology or tool. Your company's here to solve a problem.
And they all fit. They fit within a certain. It's within a certain bracket. It's within creative design, or in creative content. Let's say, for instance, we needed to do an interior design. Then, of course, we'll outsource that to somebody who specializes in that and manage the process if it's in the sake of the brand. And that's how you can solve those kind of problems. It's a very fluid look at how do you build a brand. It's not about the tools. It's about what's objective and what's the best way to get there.
How old is Pigeon Pie now in existence?
It's now about 6 years.
6 years. And your staff complement, if I'm asked?
So we're a team of 5 people,
Okay.
and we all per project. So when a project comes in, we then bring on the writers or the designers. And we work with 2 designers, a senior and a mid-level designer, 2 mid-level writers, and a team of 2 developers, and of course myself as creative director.
Is it a company? I'm assuming it's how it's structured, basically. So you basically direct all these other components. So you're basically what I also like to do out of our shows is to, if there's someone, a matric student that's thinking, I want to become a creative designer. What sort of tips or what sort of skills do you think that sort of person should possess?
Besides the technical skill, which they can learn, the biggest thing that we look for, and the biggest thing that I believe differentiates a good designer from a bad designer, is taste. So a young person looking to get into design or any kind of creative field, they need to figure out how to develop their taste. Because if they develop their taste far enough and they keep developing it, they can tell when they are doing bad work. Because you can bring in a junior designer, but if they don't have good taste, they won't be able to see when the work that they create doesn't fit the brief or doesn't deliver on quality. And of course, they need to, of course, reach the objective of the brief and all those other things, but that should be standard. But then over and above that, they need to build taste. Because if they have good taste, they can self-edit. But art is completely subjective. But then when it comes to design, you kind of go, does it objectively solve the problem? And then over and above that, is it visually and aesthetically pleasing? Is it simple? Is it easy to understand? Is it functional? So there's various other things that come into that. How do you self-edit? Maybe the right word isn't taste. Maybe the right word is self-edit. Can you figure out, can you measure your own design? And junior people who are starting out, it's going to be difficult. And when they work with a creative director or senior, they get better and better at it. But they need to constantly ask that question. They need to look at their design and go, is this the best solution to the problem? And does it actually solve the problem? If they can't answer it, that's an issue. But if they can answer it, they don't need to know how to technically get better yet. They just need to know that they're not yet there.
So what did you do prior to Pigeon Pie?
So I studied brand communications at Vega, the brand communication school. Also did design at a high school level as well. And after graduating, I freelanced for a while for ad agencies and then started Pigeon Pie.
Okay, so what made you think, okay, did you know you're going to start your own company?
My initial intention was to start it after 3 years of working within an ad agency. And what actually happened was that an opportunity kind of presented itself in year 1 already. And I thought, you know what, let's give this opportunity a try and see where it goes. And this opportunity kind of it was a client, so it kind of led to various other kind of projects, and it just really kind of snowballed from there. But I also felt like the culture within South African ad agencies, or maybe even global ad agencies, wasn't necessarily the kind of lessons I wanted to learn. The technical expertise and the technical capabilities of ad agencies is amazing. But I don't necessarily agree with the way they're structured and the way they work. And I felt like I didn't want to learn the bad habits. I wanted to create my own version of what this could be and start completely fresh. Now, there are disadvantages to that. I didn't start with a massive portfolio. I didn't start with all the technical team. I didn't start with the networks. I only started with a blank slate. But it kind of allowed me to build what I envisioned for it. And it still goes on today, so I still figure out what's the best way to build this agency that I'm busy working on.
So Marwaan, how do you find that balance between working in your business and working on your business? Because you are the you are the leader in your company.
Very difficult. I don't think I found a balance between the two. I maybe spend about 30% of the week working on the business, but I also have various advisors. So probably about three of them on a very regular basis, where we sit down and look at objectives and what the business has achieved over the last quarter, over the last few months. So there are people that I can bounce ideas off of, and people that are measuring how I'm actually growing the business. So that has helped to work on the business. But to be honest with you, when you actually get into the office and work is just flowing, it's very difficult to work on the business.
Of course.
You want to service your clients. And because my natural inclination is to service our clients in the best way possible, I sometimes put clients before I even put our own business. And we're getting a bit better at it. Well, I mean, I'm getting a bit.
So, do you have any tips? I mean, because you're smiling and on your head.
I fully understand what Marwaan's saying. We run a litigation practice, and it's time-driven. And as much as we want to work on our business in terms of expanding and putting in systems and all that, work in the end, in our industry, clients come first in terms of servicing them. So it's a great challenge. I wish you all the best with it. It's not an easy challenge, but somewhere along the line, did you say 30% of time you put on working on the business? If I heard you correctly, at least some time has to go towards that as well. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in 2-3 years' time. I should have done it that time, and you'd have missed opportunities in that regard as well. But it's fascinating how you described your business and how you started it. There's a sense I get of entrepreneurial streak in you as well. How do you view entrepreneurs in general, and do you see yourself as an entrepreneur?
I do. I view entrepreneurs as extremely important. In the early days of Pigeon Pie was a creative agency for entrepreneurs. And that's how much I love entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. Since then, we've kind of grown because we financially realized that it's actually a little bit more smoother and easier working with companies that are already about 3 to 5 years old. Maybe the people aren't fully entrepreneurial, but we still work with entrepreneurial companies. I think entrepreneurs are extremely valuable to the economy, and they're the only people who are willing to try stuff. They're the only people willing to try a new idea, push a new idea, take something to market. But I think it's also a bit of a buzzword these days. There's a lot of people that call themselves entrepreneurs, but they have no real business. They become motivational speakers, or they don't produce anything. And that's a bit of a problem in the market at the moment, especially with startups. So some people have these big ideas and they think they've made an amazing business. But if you only have an idea, you don't have any paying customers, it's not really much of a business, and you can't really call yourself an entrepreneur yet. You need to figure out how to turn that idea into something that actually generates revenue. Entrepreneurs are amazing, but I think maybe 80% of the people who call themselves entrepreneurs are not.
What qualities do you think they should have, besides obviously turning your idea into a profit?
Definitely tenacity, perseverance, commitment. They need to be committed to something. You can't expect your thing to work within 6 months, and you're not going to make $4 billion in a year. They need to be committed to, seeing things through, but then also be committed to delivering value and actually getting value in return. Because they might be able to deliver a lot of value to the market, or they might think it's a lot of value, but if no one's willing to pay them for it, it's not really much of a business. So entrepreneurs about how can I keep growing every single day or every single year, or what are new ideas and where can I tweak, what can I change, where can I innovate the system. So entrepreneurs are thinking a little bit further ahead than just a small business owner. There's nothing wrong with being a small business owner. You could even consider us, you could even consider me a small business owner. It's a creative agency. It services other clients. There's nothing wildly innovative about our company.
Pigeon Pie has been in existence for 6 years, so there's some level of success. What is your definition of success?
I would say constant growth. Anybody who's constantly growing, I would say is successful. So even someone who's starting at complete zero, but if in the next month they add 1, that's success. They've managed to move forward. Someone who's standing still, that I think is unsuccessful. That's the opposite, I think, of success. It's stagnation. You're actually moving backwards if you're standing still, because everybody else is moving forward. So if you're not making progress, you're not successful. So for me, it's progress and growth.
What is your favorite Quranic verse or story?
When I was younger, I remember this one class in Muslim school where we did the Battle of Badr. And I think we spent probably 3 weeks on that story because we did a bit of Arabic. So we did read through the Arabic story and figure out, okay, what's the English meaning of it. But then our teacher was a very big Islamic studies, not fan. He was big in Islamic studies. Although that wasn't our Islamic studies class, because we had another class for Islamic studies, we actually spent a lot of time talking about the story and what actually happened, besides just the Arabic reading of it. And what was fascinating to me about it was that it was a strategic victory. Of course, for the Muslims, it was a strategic victory. It was 300 soldiers against about 900 or 1,000. Yeah. Against 1,000 soldiers. And there's no way we could have possibly imagined winning. But everybody there had so much faith to push all the way through and be able to defeat the enemy, and they did, which is insane. I don't know, I kind of like that story, because then I would imagine when I played with my toys and like the army monarchies, I would imagine, creating that kind of scenario. Like you have these few little guys over here, then you have thousands over there, but they do something that outsmarts everybody else and then just defeats them. So maybe from a young age, I already had this. I love this whole David and Goliath kind of scenario, and that's, I guess, what entrepreneurship is, or what it's like going into business for yourself. Yeah, that story is one of my favorites.
Thanks, man.
I think the Battle of Badr, is actually the definition of success. If you think about it, it's exactly what you said. It's constant growth. From that point, the Muslims continue to grow. And today we have over 1 billion Muslims from 300 odd.
Yeah.
If you can if you define success in that manner, they managed to move forward, as you said, and defeat the 900 and odd guys. So I love that story as well. It's one of the archetypal stories everybody should know, especially the Muslims.
I think it's a great analogy for the challenges we face today. As a community, look at what's happening in America at the moment. There's these massive media conglomerates that are completely turning against the Muslim community. We don't have a very smooth 10 years ahead of us. It's actually going to be a very rough 10 years ahead of us.
Marwaan Sasman, what world do you want to live in? Tell me, how do you see the world, as you said, in 10 years' time, maybe?
Well, I actually have no idea. Although our world at the moment has challenges, I'm very happy with our world. I feel like it's challenging enough for us, but there's enough opportunity within grasp. It challenges everybody. If you really want something, you can work for it. You can try to achieve it. But the world that I do envision in the future is That sounds like a Miss. This sounds like a Miss World, Miss America answer. But where people are, I feel like everybody talks about differences between people. But when we live in a world where it doesn't matter, or we really all realize how similar we are, that to me is a really happy world. I feel like in Cape Town, the media likes to say that it's not happening. But if you walk around on the streets every day, it's happening. There are people sitting in cafes together, diverse backgrounds, diverse races, talking about diverse issues. We're not living in a divided world. Most people on the ground are happy with each other. You'll see the most vocal people and the crazy ones. You'll see them on the media and stuff like that. But if you walk around on the streets, people are getting along, especially the new generations.
They call it love 2.0 is the term. So love 1.0 is when you love yourself and your family and people close to you. But love 2.0 is when you love strangers. It's a very interesting book. I wanted to ask you about Startup Grind. I see you a lot on social media and interacting, or maybe I think Startup Grind is your client. Tell us what Startup Grind is about.
So we manage all the digital marketing and social media and content for Startup Grind. So Startup Grind is a monthly entrepreneurial event. It happens all over the world. I think there's currently 4 or 5 chapters in Africa, where every month a successful entrepreneur is invited to come speak. And a bunch of other entrepreneurs gets into the room together in the audience and listens to the speaker. And it's a very casual fireside chat. And the entrepreneur would then share their journey and how they got to where they are. Startup Grind is a Google for Entrepreneurs project. So Google does it in various different countries. And if you attend a Startup Grind here in Cape Town, or you attend one in San Francisco, or you attend one in London, it has the same setup. An hour of networking beforehand, everybody gets to know each other. An hour talk, a Q&A session afterwards, and then another hour of networking thereafter. And that's the setup all over the world. And it works in the same way. People buy tickets, they attend, they enjoy the evening. There's normally food and drinks available, and people have a good time, learn a lot of stuff, and hopefully leave inspired to go do more or get back into their businesses and push it even harder.
Is it free or is it cost? What's the cost?
So the cost in Cape Town is 60 Rand a ticket for the early bird tickets, and then the normal tickets are 120 Rand or 100 Rand.
Marwaan, how do you describe yourself in 3 words?
I have no idea. Think of 3 words. I can't believe no one has ever asked me this question. And I've never thought about it in my whole life before.
Hold it in. It doesn't matter.
You know what? Actually, I should just go very basic. Energetic. You know what? Optimistic. Energetic.
And creative.
Creative. That's cool. I like that. If I actually had to just, instead of 3 words, 1 word, optimistic. I'm such an eternal optimist. It's actually a problem. I just feel like everybody has good intentions. Even the craziest people, even Trump, he's probably doing it because he personally wants, he personally wants America to be better, and the way he sees it is...
Sees it differently.
He wants to do it that way.
Or you saw an episode of Simpsons in there.
Most evil, crazy people, they're probably doing it because of a good intention that is twisted in some way. So, yeah, I feel like everybody's contributing to the world in some way. So I'm really an optimist. And it helps in business because it sees you all the way through. There's no way I'd have made it to year 6 if I wasn't an optimist. And there's no way we'd have grown the way we've grown if I wasn't an optimist.
Optimism, in my opinion, is a quality that any change maker requires. Would you agree? And do you consider yourself as a change maker?
I agree. I don't consider myself a change maker yet. I don't feel like we've contributed to a lot of change, through the clients that we've worked with. Or the way I see myself or ourselves, that we help change makers. So I might not be able to change the entire world, but if let's say we work with 20 clients in the period of a year, and each of those clients are change maker clients. Mohammed Dalwai, who was on your podcast before, he's one of our clients. We worked with the Open Medicine Project, EM Guidance, Tinta Diagnostics, helping them build technology for underdeveloped hospitals. Imagine 20 of those kind of clients within a period of a year. Let's say 50% of them go on to be successful, mildly successful. That's 10 within a year that go on to change the community in some way. Let's say of that 10, 2 of them go on to become wildly successful and actually change the world in some way. That's amazing impact. And that's where I feel our contribution is. I mean, if we can help, let's say, EM Guidance communicate with the world better and get their brand out there and tell their story in the way they should tell their story, and it helps them reach 1,000% more people than what they would have reached with bad design, bad brand, bad writing, bad photography, bad creative, no marketing strategy, then I believe it's a big contribution. It's important work.
And this is again just going back to what you do. And this is what fascinates me through this conversation, is that anybody can benefit from this creative thinking, creative directorship that you provide. And I think that's something you should continue to own. It's something which I think is valuable to the community as well. How do you think we as Muslims can benefit from this creative thinking?
I feel like we live in a very different world today. The Muslim community probably has a PR problem and a brand problem. The Muslim brand has been tarnished. And how do we fix it? How do we tell the positive stories? How do we get past the bias? Or how do we get past propaganda? It's a difficult challenge. So if you look at the tools of brand building, tools of design, of marketing, it might be an opportunity. If you look at the entire, is it a smear campaign? Or like what Trump has built all through storytelling. The entire, or most of the American population got behind him just because he told this really powerful story of turning America into something that everybody who lived there, or most people who lived there, believed in. And even though it's twisted, people believed in it. So how do we tell a good story and get people to believe in it? And that's the opportunity, I think.
Print media, is that dying? Is it dead?
Somewhere, it's yes and no. It's kind of like what you were saying now. It depends on the problem. It depends on the market. It depends on the audience. If your target is 50, 55-year-old housewives who are baking, cooking every day and doing various other things, you'll probably reach them through You Magazine or Huisgenoot. So if you're selling a mop or something that a typical old school, traditional kind of person, might be interested in, then you could reach them through print. But also print doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be in print media like magazines. Some of our clients, we still do a lot of print work with them. Let's say they're going to a conference and they have a booth over there. They do a lot of kind of print media, like little booklets and stuff like that. We've done lifestyle magazines for some of our clients last year, where it's a piece of marketing material that's valuable to the end audience, but it also kind of markets the product. So as long as you're adding value, it doesn't really matter what platform you're in. If you can add value through print that people are really going to value, then they're not going to care what medium it's getting to them in. If they are paying attention to that medium, if they are picking up magazines, or they are already, picking up print pieces of booklets or material, then if you add them value in something that they're already paying attention to, you can only win.
I like magazines personally. Maybe I'm old school. I don't read the You Magazine though.
I prefer reading a physical, paper book than an e-book or something on a Kindle. So it's personal preference.
In 10 years, it might be very different. If you look at the way the younger generation deals with things now, they almost never pick up a magazine or a book. So in that sense, print is dead.
What's the greatest challenge you faced in your life or your career?
I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot of small challenges that I've overcome throughout my life and career. Biggest one for me is probably self-confidence or confidence. When I was younger, I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. But at some point, I realized that I do want to have a business one day. I do want to be able to run a company. And without self-confidence, without confidence to speak in front of people, without public speaking ability, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it. And slowly, I kind of chipped away at that challenge, and eventually reached a point where it's now such a comfort for me. Like someone can ask me 5 minutes to get in front of a crowd and give a talk, and I'd be able to do it. But 10 years ago, no ways. I was the quietest person in the world. So the way I slowly chipped away at it was to force myself to go to networking events where I knew nobody, and I also invited nobody with me. So I throw myself into a situation where I didn't know anybody and I didn't have a friend with me. So I had to speak to other people. And in the earlier days, it was difficult. So I'd be some networking events where I would attend, and I'd maybe speak to one other person, which also looked a bit shy. And they were the easiest to speak to. And then slowly speak to more people. And that's also how I slowly grew my network in the earlier days. So it worked in both ways. And that slowly built up my confidence, and eventually was able to break through that barrier. But no way was it an overnight thing. It was like chipping away at it every single time.
Let's say today's your last day in your life. Okay. And
that's the toughest questions.
So you only have enough energy to say a couple of sentences to your family, your loved one, your friends. What would you say?
Go out and do everything you wanted to do, or everything you want to do.
Just face your fears toward you. Yeah, just go for it.
No, I think this was a very informative session, Marwaan. I think I speak on behalf of Khalil as well. We thank you for taking your time, or giving of your time to us, so that we can learn. And no doubt the listeners will learn. And we will beseech the Almighty to protect you, protect your business, your family, and keep you healthy and fit so you can be the enabler of change.
Shukran.
So that's it for today's show. We hope we added value. We hope you enjoyed it. But most of all, we hope our guest has inspired you to live with purpose. Don't forget to send us your suggestions via info@accidentalmuslims.com. If you know anybody out there that is inspiring, that's leading, that's living with purpose, please do contact us.
And remember, feedback is our oxygen. So follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I hope you enjoyed. God bless. Assalamu alaikum.